Hello, hello. Okay. What are we doing today? Today we're making thumbnails. Thumbnails for environment and level design and thinking on how we can... I think I explained this part last time. I doesn't matter, I don't remember the whole thing, but it's fine. I'll just recap real quick, cause why not? Right, it's a Monday. It's a Monday for me. I don't know. If it's a Sunday for some people. If it's a late Monday afternoon or evening for others. I have no idea what's going on. But yes, it's a Monday morning for me. So for those who have seen my previous video, it is what I'm doing is now I'm trying to figure out what kind of environment I can create um for the game. So I created the level layout, and then or the last time I even finished the whole layout, and also explaining like additional design stuff, like how you could potentially create a concept for what the collisions will look like and all that stuff under game design. It's not really important again for a concept artist, but like sometimes it does help. So because this is like blue sky or early phases where there is no game design set in stone. Like uh, if I was to explain this, you have a game designer, right, who will set up something known as a GDD, or a game design doc, right? And that document is gonna elaborate or explain all the details of how the game works, while the concept artist creates the idea, or you could say the visuals of the game. But what if the game designer hasn't finished the work? Or you could say this is still early phases where the game designer is still experimenting and testing things, right? So if the person is still testing and the concept art is hired, like a person who is like to make the concept art is hired and is being told, hey, you still gotta make the visuals, the game design and the GDD is not like set in stone, or there is you could say a version 1 or a version 0.1 or whatever you may call it. There is a version of it, but it's not complete. And you're just gonna make do of whatever that is available to you. Only thing that has been decided so far is what the game in an overall or a general view is like confirmed. So for example, it's a brawler game, it's a fighting game, it's a shooting game, and these are the character depictions. Sometimes the character depictions could change, so it's fine. Most of the time the company will pay you for your services regardless of like what the character depictions are. Like, say for example, right now your character designs are all around like ice-based characters, right? Later on the company says we don't need the ice-based characters anymore. We want like a more humanoid or closer to human beings kind of characters. Or maybe they would be like, oh, we want to go in a different direction and we want creature designs, like dinosaurs, some kind of reptiles or something like that. What you've already done as a concept artist, you will be paid for it, or you have to be paid for it, because that was something that was decided upon when you signed the contract with that company that you were going to be like, hey, look, this is what the company is asking for you to make, and you're delivering that, and you've delivered that on time with all the, you know, requirements that the company was asking at that given point of time. So all that is done. So the company has to pay you for it. If the company doesn't pay you for it, that's actually a big no-no from the company's end. So I don't know. I don't know how much freelance artists get scammed nowadays. So I know there's a lot of people who get scammed about this, but just to be aware that you normally sign a contract and an NDA and everything because a company makes you do that. So when they make you do that, you also have to make sure in your own personal contract that you are getting paid for what you've done, like for whatever work you've done. If it is not mentioned, then you want to counter propose that contract. Like, tell them like, hey, look, if you're gonna make me sign all this and I'm gonna do all this work, and then later on you change the whole theme of the game, and then you come back and tell me, oh, we're not going to pay you because those things are not required anymore. I'm sorry, that's not how it works. Like, everyone's time is money, and then that money is like invested upon to make whatever is supposed to be made. So at the end of the day, you have to be paid for that stuff. So, but to keep yourself safe, you have to learn the business of it all, and you're gonna learn from mistakes, so it's completely fine. Anywho, so game designer makes the GDD. Say if the GDD is not made, concept artist is hired. They're told to make visuals. You can always provide them the additional information of like how collision boxes may or may not look, how user interfaces may or may not look. Some people, I did not do the user interface last time. Maybe I'll do it in a future video. Maybe I don't know, if we have time, I'll do it today. It's completely fine. But it will be like all this additional information for creating your video game project, right? They're gonna ask you for, I mean, most of the time it is not expected from you. It's like you're under promising what you're gonna give, but you're over delivering it. I'm not saying like you're putting in extra hours. What I'm saying is you're working smarter. So what'll happen is, like, if I give all those additional informations like collisions, actually it's really not important. I don't know why I'm emphasizing on this. UI, or it could be some kind of VFX, if special effects or something. I'm not saying you make these functionable. They just have to be a visual. So, like, I could place a health bar here, saying like, hey, this is how the health bar is supposed to look like. Or in most brawler games, they have like their information of the character below them, right? So most brawler games do this. They have the information below them. So you could create a placeholder showing like, hey, look, this is where the information's gonna come in. It's not gonna hinder the gameplay, basically, right? And then also, like, you got two teams, like team A, team B, right? And then your points, right? And how will it be displayed? And then if there's another character here that is like shooting or something, right? How will this VFX look like? You don't have to animate it, just draw it and make it look like, oh, this is how it's gonna look like. Then yeah, this is basically what you can present in your concept art and showcase, like, hey, look, this is how it's going to function. So the main takeaway is like you're presenting functionality of how the game will play. So if you can do this is extra. But if you can do this, you're just a bit more important than all the other concept artists out there. And this is like really, really important. If you're making concept art for a video game, you need to showcase that it is a video game. If you cannot do that, then what's the point? That's basically my question there. So if you can do all this, then you should be good to go. And most of the time, where the company will see all this is the extra layer. Like, this is extra layer of stuff. Most of the time, the company just wants to see, or your client just wants to see this visuals, right? And they'll be like, oh yeah, the visuals are cool. So what you normally do, or what I would recommend you normally do, is focus on the visuals first. And when you have the time, work on these things. What do you call additional stuff? I'm not going to create another pointer. So this will get all the work done in terms of like details and information. So I'll just label this, right? And the other thing that I've done here is the main purpose of this video is creating thumbnails. So I'm creating images as fast as possible, coming up with different environments. So we already have an understanding that the foreground elements are like fixed. We know that these are going to be there and we are not changing that. But what about the BG? Right? That is what the thumbnails are for. So what I'm saying is I'm keeping it close to the theme, where, you know, we got these characters who are like made of ice and they're constantly melting. And because of that, I was like, what if it's a place where it used to be a happy place, but now it's like, or maybe it used to be a frozen place, but now it's like there is like, you know, all this lava like spewing out from the mountains and everything. And their home is in, or their, what do you call it? Yeah, their home is in threat, you could say, or something like that. But then why are these characters fighting each other? Well, that is something you can create as you keep going. Like, in my head was like, what if these characters are from different clans and they're fighting each other for something, or some kind of a prize to escape or something like that? Or what if they're, you know, maybe the writer of the game will come up with some other ideas and stories. But like, I was like, what if we design these kind of environments? So this was like one set of environments I quickly designed, and I was like, oh yeah, this is pretty cool. And this is like pretty okay as a thumbnail. You know, the references over here. So all that stuff. So we were like, okay, these are the things that I'll be using, and I'll be creating the environments. Amongst which, I think I really like this one. I'll label it as 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. And I really like the third one, solely because it's like contrasting with the color palette. Like, this is desaturated BG, and the overall foreground is like pretty saturated with better, you know, colors that are popping out kind of thing. So definitely like the third one. 2 is okay, but too blue. I don't like it. 1 is just too chaotic. It feels sad, so definitely not going with that one. 4, well, I'm kind of mixed because it's like, oh yeah, there's a forest and there's lava as well, but I was like, what? Maybe I wouldn't want to do that. I don't know. But you like, so these are the 4 that I've created, but you can still go more. And like what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna copy this folder. Let's remove these for now. I don't need this. Right, let's just move this guy here. Right, create a new layer. Alright, label it 5. So I'm like, okay, we've already done the volcanic mountains thing. What other possible things can we do? So like, I would like, maybe I could write it down or something. maybe a beach. Now these are the extra ideas, like the things you will show your client, but you'll tell them like, hey, look, this is the extra crazy ideas that we are coming up with. You know, maybe some kind of a alien planet. The volcano one was more like, I was kind of going with the idea of like, what if it's ice age and the ice is melting kind of thing. So, like, I mean, it's just fitting the theme, but like the levels will keep changing as you keep coming up with new stuff. So, but that's in the future once the game is like out and you know you're making more content for that game. So, but you don't have to worry about that right away. You can worry about it later on. Just come up with one level first and then start building upon that for the future levels. Um, I don't know about the alien planet. Alien planet can be anything, but like, yeah, sure. Like, I don't know. Some sort of a tropical place. The reason, I mean, tropical place and beach is the same, so I don't know. Could be a forest or something. Maybe not a forest. I don't know. There are a lot of little choices in this because you still have to create the characters look like they're coming. They're coming to a land where they're probably just gonna melt and wither off, kind of thing. So it's kind of sad when you put it that way, but oh yeah, I could think of like I created the volcanic stuff, but I didn't do this one. Um, I wanted to showcase like a town or a village which is close to a volcano, so I could do that as well. Okay, so anyways, like here's one example. I really like how this smoke is coming out, kind of thing. Could do that. So yeah, then you were just like looking at Pinterest, Google, like you're doing image search or something like that, and then you're coming up with ideas. You know, like you'll do a lot of reference research. So you'll spend maybe a few hours. If it's a small thing, then you'll spend a few hours. If it's a large thing, then you'll probably spend a day or something, just collecting references. So, you know, it is how you do things for that. Let's see what other kind of man. The problem is, a lot of the searches now are skewed. I wish there was a filter. A lot of AI art keeps popping up, and I'm just like, I don't want to see AI art. Not that I have like a super hostility against it. It's just that it's not really providing me information. So, like, I don't need that. I want real life references and stuff like that. Oh, this is pretty cool. I think this is an edited image. I have no idea. It looks like that. There you go. Here's another. So, okay, cool. Aki joined, I guess. Yeah. Thanks for joining, man. Uh, it's a quiet stream today. Just me explaining how to make environments. Thumbnails, actually, not even environments as a whole. But yeah, like collect references, make environments. Okay, the other one which I wanted was a beach, right? Let me just have a look at that. Oh, this is pretty cool. Some alien planet beach kind of thing. This could work. Just have to look through the internet and you'll find some weird stuff. This is probably photo filtered, 100%. No way it could be real. You never know, it might be real. That'll be weird though. Anyway, uh, you got like some weird places. See if I can get anything. You could do all sorts of crazy because this is like there is like a fantasy element in this game. So you could go a little off the board and come up with some crazy ideas, which is fine, to be honest. But you'd still question like how do you want to do it? Like you don't want to go too crazy with it, or at least you don't want to go crazy to a point where you'll start wondering like or like if especially if your clients they're not artists, they'll look at it and they'll be like, bro, this is like crazy, but it's I don't understand why you're doing this. You don't want that to happen. So, and believe me, a lot of people are gonna do that. They'll be like, I don't understand this, why are you doing this, kind of thing. So you don't want to go super crazy. You just want to go crazy enough on the idea there where the client will just feel like, oh, this person's probably explored everything. That's about it. That's basically how you want to pitch it. Let's see what you got. I think the alien planet thing will probably not work. Um, but let's see what we got. This always takes a little time. Because you're always researching stuff and trying to figure out how you want to do this stuff. Like, how do you want to research and break it down? And it's always a hunt, figuring out what works, what doesn't work. It's you spending a lot of time like reading, looking for images, watching videos, just for you to understand like what things are working and what are not, kind of thing, you know. So it just do be that way. If I wanted to do an alien planet, I would probably look for some place. Oh, look at this. It's like a real place on. It's like a real place on the. It is a real place apparently. Very nice aesthetics. The reason I'm going with a lot of reds is because my characters are more closer to the blues, and all my characters will be close to the cool colors. So that's the reason why I'm going with a lot of reds. But that can change in like the future what you call it, options. Like for example, if you look at the other thumbnails that I've already created, like I've done blues in the BG as well, right? So yes, you can break that rule. It's completely alright. It's not a problem. I'm just looking for places where there's ice, like a decent amount of ice as well, and all that stuff. Don't want a super dry climate kind of location. Internet has helped kind of way in a way because you get to find a lot of stuff that you don't have to travel to anymore. Although if you do get the option to travel, I wouldn't say no to it, because that's when you physically go there and click a picture and like actually ask local people there about the place. They will give you an explanation which I think you will never find on the internet, so believe me, that helps. Let's see. Roland Kramer, that's what it's called. Okay. A lot of places on that could be interesting, visually interesting. Let's see, let's see, let's see. What are we doing? The other thing that you would probably not want to do is looking at other people's artwork, at this point at least. You can look, I'm not saying don't look at it, but I would recommend not to, especially if you're going to be influenced by their artwork. So it's not a good idea to look at that stuff as references. It's an okay idea to look at that stuff as inspiration. There's a huge difference between being inspired by someone's art and then using that art as a reference. So that matters. Oh, this is like pretty alien. Right, I think this is more than enough. I can like probably create like 2 or 3 more different environments. Probably gonna be, this video is probably gonna be like just thumbnails. Alright, the first one is like, I could do the beach one. So sometimes I just color pick from a photo and just create the environment real quickly. Like if you're doing thumbnails, you have to be fast, right? Like you don't create details, you just create like a sense of details with like, it's just a thumbnail at the end of the day. So it's completely alright that the thumbnail doesn't have to have a lot of details. Right, like that's pretty much what I'm doing. A little bit of blues, probably take a little from here, give it a little bit of a shade. Like I just wanted a little more color, so I'm like picking, that's the reason why it's like you got more than one image, because you're color picking from both at that point and just creating a sense of detail. So this one doesn't really even have details right now in terms of like colors, but like I'll try to create something darker, and maybe the mountains on the sides. Or maybe this doesn't have mountains. If I was going to say like this is some sort of a beach kind of place, then actually I don't know if it's, I should call it a beach. It should be more like a desert land, or an area where it's got ice, but it's not like mountainous ice. It's like kind of flat. So all that kind of stuff. Just right away. So I'm just doing that. A little bit like this. Right. The reason I keep the center a little flat is because of the object itself. You know, there will be probably something like, here you go, adding a little bit of snow kind of texture, or whatever you can call it. It's kind of funny because I was seeing a video about how volcano or volcanic activity, when it's spewing lava and it's falling on a ground which is covered with a sheet of ice, how does it act? Like, how does it react? This is like kind of crazy. It's literally only the ice that is coming in contact with the lava is melting, but the rest of the ice is still solid. You don't even see like smoke coming out, like as if it's being vaporized or something. You don't even see that. And I'm just like, what the hell? But if you, to be fair, that is a sheet of ice with so much ice that it's like super freaking cold. So for that for that amount of cold to be like heated up again, you just need to be in direct contact with the source of that heat. So when I was looking at that, I was just like, damn, I didn't know that could happen. But like, lo and behold, it does. So these reds are mostly actually, they should be more like a effect rather than part of the object. Probably get a little bit more. I don't know what this is gonna be. It's probably gonna get rejected, but I'll try making something out of it anyways. So a lot of times you'll face this. You'll be like, I'm not sure whether this will go or not go, and you just have to do like a good amount of like understanding, research, study, just figuring out like, oh, this is what it is about. So like in this case, I'm like more doing like color palette thing rather than actual information on the detail of the environment. But like it's an idea that popped in my head, like, oh yeah, from a beach, I'm trying to make something out of this. Will it work? Question mark. Maybe not. So gotta do something else, man. And that's the reason why you do thumbnails. The reason you do thumbnails is because you know it may not work. So this is a little bit of reds. There you go. And then a little bit of blues from the tops. Just to balance the act. So it makes the environment, it makes the foreground pop, which is basically part of the goal. And since I'm achieving that, I'm not worried about whether it's gonna be like a really cool design right away. You know, and if this is not working, then I know that I'll probably have to just make something else. And that's the whole goal of the design thing that you do in thumbnails. You're exploring what will work and what will not work. Right? And that's one. Like, it's so easy. You know, just create one, make another. Probably just delete layers. My voice is so like grouchy because I'm not feeling so good, at least in terms of like got a bad sore throat and all that shit. Anyways, I like this environment. I really like this environment. It's got this red and whites and blues and everything. I really like the environment. It's pretty cool. The alien planet one, yeah, just looks interesting overall. Right, come up with like it's just a good composition on its own. So I could just come up with something, like just build a composition around that same photo. You do that, it's just saving you time because you already have the design of how it's gonna be placed. All you gotta do is like place it in the BG with your foreground being the level itself. If you can do that, then most of your work is done, kind of thing, you know. Got those blues here, which is like part of the other mountains. The shadows are on there. Just do that. I'm deliberately using this texture brush though, because this brush is kind of like, it just gives that texture real quick, so I'm just using it for purpose. Some people will be like, what brush do you use? It doesn't matter, but texture brushes usually just speed up the process. That's the question to be asked. Because a lot of this stuff will be deleted, right? Like, won't go at the end of the design doc. Probably with light coming from one side, so. Yeah, it's an alien planet, probably experiencing Ice Age meltdown or something. That's basically what I'm trying to show here. I'll make it smaller because it's not important. The foreground is more important than the background. The background's job is to complement the foreground. So it just needs to be good details, good amount of information on it, but it's not important as the foreground itself. So like, normally what you do is you can desaturate the background and then keep the saturated foreground so that it feels like the foreground is popping all the time. Right? It's one of the most simple processes of making foregrounds and backgrounds to complement each other. So you notice like I'm doing this red blue shifts. It's pretty cool. So, you know, just makes it look like interesting. It's like painting it like that randomly. Really not in detail. Just enough information that it feels like, oh yeah, this is something's happening here. Alright. And what you can do is I could white it out. Have clouds just deciding to be almost in the same sections as where the platforms are, so the platforms are popping out like crazy. The power of art. You could do all this kind of stuff and then make a lot of things. Okay. Now, I always do this. Soft round brush. And probably do this. Just desaturate a bit overall. It still shows that there's lava falling in the. So this is the reason why I made the lava in a separate layer for the foreground elements as well, because I was like, oh, if I want to remove it, I know what to do with it. So yeah, there you go. You know. Just a hair of this. Probably. Take some right color. There you go. that solves this problem. Just erase the additional content which you don't require and keep painting it. Whoa, what's happening? Cut that off. Yo, Photoshop doing some weird shit for me. There you go. This should do it. Like, look at that. That's pretty cool. It's got some weird reds and blues happening, but it looks pretty from like the first. What do you say, from your first perspective or your first point of view? Like at a glance, it looks pretty cool. So it's like, okay, something happened. I wasn't expecting that, but something happened. The reason why it's like I've not thought of like what exactly I want, but at the same time, I have a very clear idea that there is something related to what I want. Okay, now the last one which I wanted to do was like have this setting environment where the characters have a village or a town, which is also there in the background available. It should be visible, kind of thing. So I was just like, oh yeah, what if there was something, and they had like a, some sort of a place in the mountains or whatever, where they have a lot of snow and all that shit. So what if all that was there? So you notice the current color palette that I'm using for this thumbnail is very close to the is very close to the foreground. For those reasons is why I always switch away from them. Like I try to use more desaturated colors. The moment you start using colors which are close to your foreground elements in your background, it's just going to blend everything and make it look muddy. And you don't want that. You do not want that at all. But the thing is, those photo templates, or I mean, I'm not using photo templates in this case. I'm just picking colors from the reference itself because that's basically what I want. So the thing is, like, the reference images always help. It's going to give you a good understanding of like, hey, these are the elements I want in my references. So it helps. It really helps. Right now, I'm just trying to think like, how am I going to place houses in this? I really like this. I don't know what the heck this is. Like, there's a big, huge ass mountain here in the middle of everything. Probably I'll paint it a little darker for now. And like a massive cloud of smoke. Yeah, well, green does look interesting to have. Although I'm not sure whether I want that color. Try this for a second. Like, I don't know, I just want that shot from the photograph. It's just too freaking amazing. So I was just like, okay, I want something similar. Can I have something similar? You know, start questioning myself on those matters. Maybe this will work, maybe it won't work. We don't know. Let's see. But the goal is that we come up with some ideas on this. And a lot of like just pulling out a lot of references just from the images itself. Like, what you call it? Like the colors I'm picking up from the images itself. Can you even do that? Is that allowed? I guess. Depends. Um, I mean, in my previous videos, I was just painting from scratch. Because that one I could paint from scratch. But what if you don't have the time? Like, especially in concept art, most of the time you don't have time. So then you'll be like, okay, what are the shortcut I can pull? Oh, I can color pick the reference images that I'm using. Drawing from life is something very, very important. That even when people say like, oh yeah, I'm gonna become a concept artist, become a designer, come up with cool stuff, they're still referring to life. Most of the pros are still referring to life. They're still referring to things that really exist in the world. And they pull references from that, and then sometimes they mix stuff, sometimes they just want the thing to be generic as is. You know, they do all that, they put it all together, and they come up with cool designs. That's basically how concept art works most of the time. Is it easy? In a way, yes. Is it difficult? In a way, you could say depends on how your visual library functions. What is visual library, you ask? Stuff that you see all the time. It gets added up in your memory, and then you got a visual library. The goal was to create like a town in the mountains kind of thing. This is very fun to paint though. Like, to create something like this, it's really fun to paint. Because this is like very... It's like you're just playing, and the canvas is your playground kind of thing. But yeah, I don't know, this is like some kind of a theme. Maybe something that will stand out a bit. Maybe there's a tower or some sorts. And I'll probably do this. Here I may need to add like a little extra detail, some things, just to give a distinction like, oh yeah, this is what it is about. The reason I'm putting in towers in there is just to showcase like it's some kind of a construction of something of sorts. But otherwise I don't really need it. Right. The clouds continues. And just to create a more finished, you could say like edge. So to make your painting less messy is actually control the edges of your painting. So the more edge control you have, the better your painting will create distinction between lights and shadows, and that in turn will help you make better paintings. Just something I picked up. Learning to paint, this is what happens to you. Right, because right now my painting doesn't make sense at all. It doesn't. It doesn't make sense to me, let alone other people. So you just have to create edge control, man. Like, there are some places where you can blend at the edges, and that's completely fine if you're blending stuff. But there are places where you'll have to create edge control. And those areas are important because that's where the distinguish, like, the separation between the area of focus will come in. So, like, when I create edge control, it'll be like, oh, that's where I want my viewer to focus. And thus the painting that is the central or focus of the painting, you could say. Like this, right? This is the edge control. Now my painting has more depth and detail. Do that. Hello. Well, I'm not looking at messages because I'm just like painting and like talking at the same time. It's very difficult to paint and talk at the same time. That's the reason why I'm like not paying attention. But like I always keep checking messages every few minutes or something. But yes, welcome to the chat. Welcome to my video about creating concepts for games. These are thumbnails which I'm creating for a game. Very useful stuff, man. Very useful stuff. Right. There you go. This is edge control. Now you have a clear idea of what this painting is going to be like. Now, the only issue that I'm facing is there's too much detail in the background, which is creating, what do you say? Or you could say which is causing the player to lose focus at the foreground elements, and the foreground elements are the stage or the level itself and the characters that are there in the foreground. So what I normally do is when I have things like this happening, like I was doing for the other thumbnails as well, I'll create like a soft brush and just create like this sense of atmosphere or fog, just to cause the environment on the back to get pushed even further behind, and then it's like it's giving you a sense of like, oh, okay, that's what's happening. Actually, no, I'll just take the color I want. Want like a little bit of orange. Not too bright. This one she's not. And probably a little bit of reds as well, because I still have lava fountains on the environment, on the foreground elements, but I think it is too much. Yeah, there you go. So this is causing your environment to pop just enough. Maybe a little bit here more. So what will happen is when you create this stuff, you'll have a level of detail which then you're going to present to your 3D artist, like the environment artist. And the environment artist is going to look at this stuff and be like, what can be made and what cannot be made. Most of the time they'll just be like, yeah, all this can be made. They won't really complain, believe me. But there will be times when they'll be like, there's too much detail, so I'm going to change some stuff when I'm making the game, or when I'm making the environment and compiling it inside the game engine. That's when the problem will come. So a little fun note a little fun note when you are making uh, video games is there is a level of information that you cannot have inside the game. And I'll explain to you what I mean by that. Because, believe me, I can't word shit sometimes. So, okay. Let me first remove the references, bring back all the other thumbnails as well, and let's place them all together. Place them all together. My thumbnails do be there. Okay, this is 3. This is 4. A lot of thumbnails, huh? I mean, I can do a full presentation now because of this. 5, 6, 7. So I'll probably, you know what, I'll probably reduce the size because it's fine. Page here like this. 7 will come here. Let me just place them nicely. Move this guy here. 1, 2, 3. This 3 is a bit too small. And I'll increase the size of it. Right. 4. My environment artist is going to see this and they're going to be like, okay, what do you want me to do? Because they're going to look at this and they'll be like, okay, I don't understand any of this. In a way, because these are just thumbnails, I have to, like, I'll have to go and, like, get a read on the art direction as well. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. A little more than enough, actually. 7. Okay. Right. So there are like a lot of color comps happening here, but like I'll explain you something about environment art and adding it inside a game. So the thing is, your environment is divided into foreground, midground, background, as every artist knows. But when you're looking at it in a video game's perspective, your first priority comes to the character, which basically becomes your foreground or the focus. The second is the level, or you could say the foreground environment. Okay, so if I was to play any existing fighting game, look at Smash, or look at Street Fighter, the environment that is immediate and interactable to the character, even if it means that the character is just standing on it, is like the focus environment that should have a higher level of detail than the background. But a lot of times you'll see amazing backgrounds and you'll be like, wait a minute, but the environment in the front is just a plain flat ground. And the background has all this level of detail of like other NPC characters doing some kind of weird hooligan dancing shit, right? Now there's a whole understanding behind that, right? So, and this is my BG in this case. So what I do is, since I know that characters 1, I'll mark it as A. Characters A, level of environment, like foreground environment is B, and BG is C, where A stands for like the highest amount of focus than anything else, right? What I do is, keeping A and B aside, when I'm working on BG and I'm creating all those NPCs and everything, I'm basically creating a sense of detail, but not actually giving it detail. Like the overall components, like the textures, then you could say the poly counts or tri counts. right? All this is like way lesser than the environment that is which is interactable and the player itself. The player characters are like the highest level of detail. Then comes the, you know, the foreground environment, and then comes the background, which I've basically explained here. So most of the time, this is basically what you would do in a video game, and then you would just create a sense of detail, but not really create detail in the environment. So that's basically what I do in the thumbnails. In the thumbnails, I'm more focused on how the colors are gonna blend or or cause the environment to pop out, or like the players to pop out, and then based on that, I'll start adding details when I know which composition I want to go with. So that's the whole goal of. Are there any problems in Garo, like a character being banned? I have no idea, dude. Is there a character being banned? Even I don't know. I'll have to go and look at this. I have no idea. Characters being banned. I don't know about the new one. Are you talking about the old Garo game? Because I'm not aware, because I did not play Garo so much. I played KOF back in the day, and I know only Rugal was banned, dude. Like, and Rugal was banned because of its gameplay. I don't think he was banned because of an environment. Or he was blending too much. I have no clue about a character being banned because of an environment. Or an environment being banned because of certain characters. I've not seen that happen in a long time. And I don't think I've seen it happen in the early days as well. I mean, if you're looking at the old games, it used to have like this color palette where you couldn't distinguish between. Yes, old one. Yeah. If old one and Fight K Garo characters being banned. We have tournament. Oh shit, I forgot. Folks, just a quick announcement that there's gonna be a Garo tournament on a Discord server known as IVFG, which stands for Indian Virtual Fighting Grounds. I'm part of that server. Shameless, inserting shameless promotions here, folks, but it's my own promotions. So I'm part of this. I'm part of that server. We have tournaments every month, or at least possible tournaments every month, and hangouts for folks who want to learn how to play fighting games, or like get better at fighting games. This is more of an Indian server, but people from all over the world are welcome. It's just because it's an Indian server because all of us are like from India at that point. So it's just there. Like, we don't discriminate, don't worry. So yeah, we have a tournament coming up at the end of the month for Garo. If anybody's interested, do come and play. Just be careful of your time zones. That's the only thing I'll point out. But other than that, yeah. Now, coming back to that question, characters being banned in the old thing. I don't think Garo has any problem. Let me just have a look. Let me just have a quick look because I'm doing it anyways. Garo environment. I should do a breakdown of all this stuff. From what I know, SNK never had this issue for any of their fighting games, solely because SNK followed a very consistent art development for making their environments. And if you look at SNK's environments, the reason that it has so much detail in the first place is because they're taking references from real life in Japan or wherever other places that they're looking at. And they're building their environments around that. And when they put the character in, you can clearly tell that um, there is a good separation between the character's color palette and the environment color palette. I know the first generation SNK games, like the early 90s, 80s, I don't think they had a game in the 80s, but like the super early 90s games, that color palette separation was not there because it was limited due to technology. But like the later games had a lot of color palette separation. Especially if you look at KOF 13, which was like I think their last 2D fighting game, like with sprites and everything. That one had like really amazing backgrounds, and the background had a very strong separation with the characters. So the characters actually used to pop out all the time. So 98 has a lot of glitches. Yes, I'm aware of this. But like I don't know like full in-depth detail because I don't play a lot of 98. But I do know like there have been cases with uh color palettes being too close to each other. And there's like this unspoken rule. I remember in Third Strike also there was this unspoken rule. Like certain characters' colors should not be picked in certain environments. But it was not like specified in a tournament rule or something. It's just like players used to keep this unspoken rule amongst each other. So yeah, there was all that. Uh 1 minute. Where was I? Okay. Wait, let me just send my cat away. Right. So the other thing that I was doing while I was working on this environment design, coming back to the video, what I'm actually working on. Textures, polygons, level of detail, which is I believe they call it LODs. I don't know if they call it LODs in all companies, but level of detail, yeah, is a term that is used in games. So there's high level of detail, but at the same time, the textures and the overall quality is reduced. So that's how basically the environment, the background environment is made. And there's a lot of like another thing that 3D artists will do is like they'll create like this um atmosphere, like a fog. And this fog is like not a moving fog, it's just like a placeholder fog. Okay. So it's basically a card, a 3D card, which is like reduced opacity. So it's not 100% opaque. It's reduced opacity, so it's like transparent or translucent, you could say. And what they're doing is they're creating this atmosphere to, my God, I can't spell for shit. Uh, they're creating this atmosphere to desaturate and plus basically and make the foreground pop out. So 3D artists do this. So that's the reason why I was using an airbrush and just like desaturating the environment so that the foreground pop out. I do this a lot. That's basically the same thing that you would do in 3D in a sense. But yeah. So there is that. Then there is anything else that I'm missing out here. I think I'm pretty much done with this. And then it'll just be like presenting these thumbnails to probably an art director. Not the 3D artist. The 3D artist is gonna look at this and will be like, what the hell, man? I don't understand this. You'll probably want to show it to an art director, and art director will look at it and be like, okay, these are the things I want. This is the composition I'm going with. Can you create more detail in this composition? Maybe they'll be like, oh yeah, this is like a Like for example, this one is like, oh, you're trying to create like some sort of a village. Instead of a village, could you create like a giant gate or entrance of sorts? I don't know, like, bring the environment a bit closer or anything. I don't know. They'll just give their own feedback. And they'll give all that feedback, you take it down, and then you'll be like, okay, I'm going ahead with this composition. Say, for example, I'm going ahead with the last one. I'm going ahead with this comp, right? But the information, or you could say the details, has been updated. Details updated, right? So this is what an art director will do. He'll probably come up with like other possible ideas. Sometimes they don't come up with ideas. They'll just be like, "Oh yeah, I like the composition, but I don't like the information that this background is providing." So the next step will be like they will pick one of these compositions, and they'll tell you like what they like and dislike, and based around that, then you'll start updating details in this. And but the color comp or the color palette of the background will remain the same. It will not change. So basically, the if I've picked 7, let's just say, if I've picked 7, and what will happen is the color palette of 1 to 6 is not going to be picked more anymore. At least not for this background. There'll be like, you can just archive 1 to 6. Maybe we'll use these compositions for future environment art. Pick 7, create now different versions, or you could say variations from 7. That's basically what an art director is going to tell you to do now. And that once that is decided, then the 3D artist will look at that stuff, because by then you'll have like a good level of detail created for the background, and then you'll just show this to the 3D artist saying like, hey, look, this is the environment that's selected, this is the environment that's final. So 3D artist, the environment artist is going to look at this, they'll be like, okay, and then they'll start creating the background in 3D, put it inside the engine and see if it runs and everything. And if there's too much information, they'll remove some stuff, they'll add some of their own stuff. It works like this. You got concept. You got concept. Who, let's just say, create something and you put it as 100%. Okay. Then it'll go to the art director, or any form of director per se, but mostly art director, and they will bring it to 80% of that work. Okay. And from that 80% of the work, they will add an additional 20% of their own. So the original, this is OG, and this is like, you could say, art director, so I'll put it as AD. Okay. And then from the art director, it'll go to 3D person after the concept people work on it, and they're like, hey, look, this is the new details and everything. It'll go to the 3D person, and 3D person is going to look at it. And from that 80, they'll probably they'll remove another 20%, so you'll become 60. Because of like technical reasons, right? They'll be like, hey, look, I can't put so much information, or hey, this mountain and this mountain cannot work together because the models of these mountains are completely different and they have to work well together. Or certain places you need to reuse assets, so they'll be like, hey, look, we're just making one asset and we're reusing it so that the game works efficiently, it's optimized, and it can work on any computer. Otherwise it's gonna it's just gonna tax the graphic card of like any computer that you're making the game for, and it probably might not work in older PCs. So that's a reason why they do all that kind of stuff. It's more technical limitations or technical restrictions so that it works on more computers or console. I don't think consoles have that issue, but like computers, Like someone has an old PC, which, if you say potato PC, someone has an old PC, and the old PC probably work with will not work games which are meant for like newer generation computers. So for those reasons, how could you do that? Like a good example is most of the free to play games that you're currently playing, like Valorant, League of Legends, um, you know, Riot Games has that, and then you've got Dota, you got Counter Strike, you got all these games. These games are designed to work on any computer whatsoever the case. Even if your computer is like 10 years old, 20 years old, 25 years old, I don't care. It it will work because it will limit the graphics. It will probably remove some of the shaders, some of the, light occlusions, God rays, or whatever else you may call it. It'll remove some of that stuff, but it will work smoothly on your PC. That is basically how a 3D artist will approach, an environment artist will approach in like creating the environment for the game. Character artist does a similar thing, but because if the character is in focus, they're given a little more leniency. They'll be like, "Hey, look, this is the main character. It needs to have detail." So that person will probably put like as much as detail possible, and then they will reduce the amount of detail based on like what level of texture is required or actually required inside the game. So coming back to it, so what'll happen is 3D guys will probably add another 20%, right? They'll remove something from the OG and they'll probably add another 20%. Or they could even remove some things from the art directions work. Like, it could be like maybe 10% here and then 30% here. I've never seen this happen though, the whole 30% thing. Normally 3D people will be like, we'll try to get it one-to-one with the concept. 3D people don't complain or don't fuss about like adding their own elements. There are times they do, but most of the time they don't. Not saying that they are not creative. It's just that's just the nature of work for a 3D artist because there's already a lot on their plate. So that's what a 3D person will do, and then from there, it will go into like quality check. So you could say QC. QC does not really do any development. They just keep testing the game to see if it's playable or if it's working on the computer or anything. So you could say these are testers, but like in-house testers who are like working for the company full time. Yes, there are jobs like that. Not a lot, but like there are jobs like that. It's quite gruesome, so it's not most of the time people don't apply for like being a quality check or a tester for a company full time. A lot of people don't do that anymore. But yeah, that'll happen. So then they'll be like, they'll look at the whole thing and they'll be like, I really like the design, but maybe I don't want it 100%. So they'll probably remove 10% of this, right? And then art director is 20, 3D is a 20, right? And then they'll add their own 10%, which you'll call QC. Okay. And then this will go back all the way to concept again. Right. It's like I don't know what, some waterfall or some, I don't know what models are there. There are a lot of models in UML. So it's one of those, like, if you're a business person, then probably you'll understand that. But like, if you're someone like me who's not a business person, I don't know. I'm just throwing a word which I read on the internet or on some book, and I was like, yeah, it could be that model. But no, I don't know. I really don't know. But yeah, it just follows this. Sometimes it does not go all the way to concept. It just comes back to 3D people. Like, they'll be like, oh yeah, you just need to do an edit. Okay, fine. Then it'll just come back to 3D. It won't even come back to concept. Or it can just go to art director stating like, hey, look, we just need to update like a certain sense of direction. Doesn't really need a actual update, just like a color change or a texture change. Not even a texture, like a material change. More like, can you make the wall less blue? That's basically the kind of, texture change that they might ask. So that kind of weird shit. So yeah, it'll either go to just art director or 3D sometimes. It doesn't even come back all the way to the concept. And if you're like a freelance concept artist, the likelihood by the time it reaches QC, the likelihood of you being in the company is gone, because what a concept artist does is they're hired in for pre-production, and when the game is gone into full production and you're a freelance concept artist who's basically on contract, you will probably not be working there. You must have done the work, everything's been locked, and you've left. You're probably on another project altogether. While, like, now the art director and the internal artists with the quality check people and the 3D people are working on finishing the game. Like, you as a concept artist are probably left. Like, you're like, oh yeah, my part in the project is done. And the company will be like, oh, we don't need you anymore. So, thanks for coming. And they'll probably like let you go. And you'll be working on another project until this company calls you back saying like, hey, okay, future, these projects are coming up. Would you like to work for us again? And all that stuff. So that's basically how freelance works, man. So yeah, this is like a full explanation of how to do concept art freelance for a company who's making video games. I hope it helps overall, but like, yeah, I think I will stop the video here. If there are any questions, you can always put a comment. I will be continuing this series. Probably I'll get a validation from my people, like which thumbnail I should go forward with and all that stuff, and continue working on this. But yeah, do check out like how other concept artists work. I'm not the only one. There are so many people out there who do like so much better than me, and yeah, probably a lot of amazing artists out there, like in illustration as well and all that stuff. So once again, thank you so much, whoever stopped by, whoever's going to watch this video. I hope it's helpful. Like, do ask me questions. Feel free to critique my video. It's completely all right. I'll take that critique as a feedback, and then I'll like adjust, like improve the video. Even if it's quality or sound, please do let me know, because sometimes I'm not able to figure out whether the sound of the video or the quality of the stream is good enough or not. I'm still learning a lot of things, like in terms of like, streaming.